The crowd was on its feet repeatedly. By the time she finished, the Republican base, which had been lukewarm on McCain for months, was absolutely on fire. The next morning, she was on the cover of every newspaper in the country. McCain's poll numbers jumped. For a brief electric window, it looked like Schmidt's gamble had worked.
I had the privilege of living most of my life in a small town. I was just your average hockey mom and signed up for the PTA. I love those hockey moms. You know, they say the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick.
It's September 3rd, 2008, St. Paul, Minnesota. The Republican National Convention is packed. Delegates are on their feet. The hall is electric, and the entire country is watching. And walking to that podium is a woman almost nobody outside Alaska has ever heard of. 5 days earlier, she was the governor of a state with fewer people than the city of Columbus, Ohio. Even inside John McCain's campaign, her name wasn't widely known until days before the announcement. The speechwriter tasked with drafting her convention address had begun working before the pick was finalized, rewriting it under intense time pressure once her selection was confirmed. Tonight, she is going to electrify the country, and in 21 days, it is all going to fall apart. I'm Charles Denyer, and this is Chasing Power, where we break down the moments, the scandals, the battles, and the players that shaped American politics, both past and present. Today, from breakout star to breaking point, the 21 days that defined Sarah Palin.
Welcome to Chasing Power, the path to Pennsylvania Avenue, a Charles Denyer Productions podcast.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
The audacity of hope. America, you've vindicated that hope.
And we will make America great again.
To understand how one woman could go from total obscurity to national phenomenon to political punchline in less than 2 months, you need to know 3 things. First, after 8 years of Bush and Cheney, the Republican brand is damaged, exhausted, and bleeding support. By the summer of 2008, John McCain is not just trailing, he's losing the narrative. Across the country, Barack Obama has ignited something the GOP simply cannot match, a movement. More than 100,000 people pack a stadium in Denver to watch him speak. There's energy, momentum, and history in motion. McCain is 71 years old, running in a year that demands change, and he doesn't embody it. His campaign knows it. Desperation sets in. His instinct is to choose Joe Lieberman, a Democrat, his closest ally. His team shuts it down. Then Steve Schmidt makes his move. Don't compete with Obama, disrupt him. Find someone young, female, unknown, electrifying. Someone who can hijack the word change. There's one name, the governor of Alaska. Her name is Sarah Palin. McCain barely knows her, but he sure likes the looks of her, that according to some of McCain's closest campaign aides. So, outside at the water's edge, near a hawk's nest on McCain's ranch in Sedona, Arizona, he turns to his wife, Cindy, and says, "Eff it, let's do it." And just like that, the calculation changes. One decision, made in a moment, setting off a chain reaction that would electrify the base, dominate the headlines, and redefine the race overnight. Second, the vetting for Sarah Palin was almost non-existent. The actual written vetting report on Palin was thrown together from scratch in less than 40 hours, assembled largely from internet searches. The campaign's senior staff assumed she would have a working knowledge of the major policy debates of the previous decade. They assumed incorrectly. Meanwhile, the speechwriter assigned to draft her convention address, a former Bush White House writer named Matthew Scully, had written the entire speech for a man to deliver before being informed, just days before the convention, that the pick was a woman. As a result, he worked through the night to rewrite it. And third, the moment she walked out, none of that seemed to matter. As Time magazine and others noted, she was confident, controlled, and politically lethal. mixing charm with precision in a way that instantly changed the energy in the arena. Young and very attractive, Sarah Palin introduced herself to America with 5 children standing behind her, a story of small-town Alaska in front of her, and a line that would become the defining soundbite of the night.
I love those hockey moms. You know, they say the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick.
The country watched, and for one night, Sarah Palin looked like the future of the Republican Party. Now, here's what happened. The speech itself was a masterclass in political theater. Palin worked the teleprompter like a seasoned professional, which was remarkable given that she had almost no experience on a national stage. She opened with her family, her roots in Wasilla, her identity as a mother and a mayor and a governor who had taken on the oil companies and won. She was warm and sharp at the same time, moving seamlessly between her personal story and a direct, unapologetic assault on Barack Obama. She went after him on experience, a man who had authored 2 memoirs but not a single major piece of legislation. She went after him on the war, a candidate, she said, who could give an entire speech about the conflicts America was fighting and never used the word victory except when speaking about his own campaign. And she delivered the red meat lines with a smile that made them land harder, not softer. The crowd was on its feet repeatedly. By the time she finished, the Republican base, which had been lukewarm on McCain for months, was absolutely on fire. The next morning, she was on the cover of every newspaper in the country. McCain's poll numbers jumped. For a brief electric window, it looked like Schmidt's gamble had worked. The McCain-Palin ticket had momentum. The race was genuinely competitive. But the cracks were forming, and they were about to absolutely explode for the McCain ticket. First, the McCain campaign made a decision in the immediate aftermath of the convention. And what was that? To keep Palin away from the press. No solo interviews, no unscripted moments. Control the message, protect the asset. It was a strategy that made sense given how little preparation had gone into her selection. But it also created a pressure valve. The questions about her qualifications were not going away. They were building, and the campaign could not hold the lid on forever. Then, on September 24th, the first segment of Palin's interview with CBS Evening News anchor Katie Couric aired. It had been sold internally as a friendly sit-down, a chance to show Palin's warmth and accessibility to a mainstream audience. Campaign staffers later said Palin declined extensive preparation ahead of the interview. What followed was something that political veterans still struggle to explain. Couric asked about the newspapers and the magazines Palin read to stay informed. Palin could not name a single one. Couric asked about the Supreme Court, which decisions Palin disagreed with beyond Roe versus Wade. Palin could not name one. The answers were halting, circular, and sometimes incoherent. Steve Schmidt later said there were no gotcha questions, no unfair questions. His verdict on his own candidate's performance? I can't explain it. It was not a good interview. I'm being charitable. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Then Tina Fey walked in, and oh boy, I remember this like it was yesterday. On September 13th, just 10 days after the RNC speech, Fey debuted her Palin impression on Saturday Night Live opposite Amy Poehler as Hillary Clinton. It was devastating, and not because it was vicious, but because it was accurate. The impression metastasized. Clips went viral before going viral was even a standard phrase. Every stumble in the Couric interview became an SNL sketch. Every sketch made the next interview harder. By the week the bulk of the Couric interviews aired, 64% of press coverage of Palin was negative, roughly 9 times the positive coverage. The woman who had electrified St. Paul 3 weeks earlier had become, in the words of one observer, a national punchline. The McCain campaign, already behind, never recovered. John McCain and Sarah Palin were soundly defeated by Barack Obama and Joe Biden on November 4th, 2008.
He will be the first African-American president of the United States.
In his memoir, McCain later reflected that he might have made a different choice, including considering Joe Lieberman more seriously. Personally, I don't think anyone could have made a difference in that race for John McCain, as the country was exhausted after 8 years of Bush and Cheney, including millions of Republicans. As for Palin, she returned to Alaska and resumed the governorship that had propelled her into the national stage. However, less than a year later, on July 26, 2009, she resigned. Her departure was controversial, but from her perspective, it was a practical decision. She faced a barrage of ethics complaints, most dismissed, that consumed time, taxpayer resources, and her ability to govern. Palin argued she could better serve Alaska and herself by stepping aside rather than allowing constant investigations to paralyze the office. After leaving office, she authored several best-selling books, hosted a reality television show, and became a contributor on Fox News. In 2022, she ran for Alaska's at-large congressional seat, but was unsuccessful. The trail she blazed, however, the anti-establishment, outside the Beltway, unapologetically combative brand of politics she introduced to the national stage, that did not die with her political career. It found other carriers, such as Donald Trump in 2016. Now, Palin's defenders make arguments that deserve a fair hearing. They point out that the media coverage of her was relentless in a way that few male candidates had ever experienced. Every stumble was magnified. Every personal detail, her family, her faith, her clothes, they all became cannon fodder in a way that had no equivalent for the men on either ticket. Some conservatives argued that the Couric interview was a setup, that the format and the follow-up questions were designed to expose rather than explore. Palin herself, years later, admitted the newspaper question was fair and that she simply gave a bad answer. And some analysts make the longer argument that whatever Palin's limitations as a candidate, she correctly identified something real in the American electorate, a hunger for authenticity over polish, for outsiders over insiders, for someone who talked like the people watching rather than the people on the stage. Whether you find that observation troubling or compelling probably depends on where you stand politically. But the argument that she saw something before most of Washington did, that part, well, that's harder to dismiss. And if you don't think so, well, look again at the rise of Donald Trump and his election in 2016.
Has called Donald Trump to concede the race.
When Barack Obama stood at the podium in Boston in 2004 as an unknown state senator, he had spent weeks writing that speech himself, longhand on a yellow legal pad and testing it on crowds for months. Every line had been fought over, refined, and earned. That speech launched a presidency. When Sarah Palin stood at the podium in St. Paul 4 years later, the speech had largely been written for her. The vetting that put her there lasted about 40 hours. The preparation for the interviews that unraveled her candidacy barely happened at all. 2 unknown figures, 2 convention speeches, 2 moments of undeniable electricity. The difference was everything that happened before the lights came on. The podium doesn't lie. It just takes time to tell the truth. If you want to go deeper on the Obama story that set the stage for everything we cover today, the 2004 DNC keynote that started it all, that episode is waiting for you in the Chasing Power archive. Next time on Chasing Power, another politician, another moment. Donald Trump taps Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his 2016 running mate. I'm Charles Denyer. Thanks for Chasing Power with me.
All opinions expressed are those of the host and do not reflect the official positions of any political organization, government agency, or private institution. This podcast is for news reporting, commentary, and criticism. We use excerpts, clips, and quotations from political events and other copyrighted works under the Fair Use Doctrine. All rights in those works remain with their respective owners. The views expressed are our own and do not represent any other entity.